new base of Laker fans, John.
Right.
Well, I think that there's going to be a whole bunch of them now. I don't know about you guys. I'm still in shock. I'm like, we just landed like maybe an hour ago, and everybody's just finally getting home. And it was a weird plane ride because nobody knew, like, are we allowed to be excited? Should we be sad that AD and Max are going, who are super popular? Who's going to play center? I mean, and yet the underlying theme of it all is somehow Rob Pelinka got us Luka Doncic.
John,
I'm a little bit shocked.
Was Max on the plane on the way back?
Like,
You guys still there?
Yeah. How did they get home?
Like, was Max Christie? AD was still in L.A., but like, was Max Christie on the plane on the way back?
No, and I asked the same question you did, and I think they very much would have liked to put him on the plane so he could, come back here and get his stuff. And let me start by saying this because I know we're gonna kind of dig into the trade. I would be shocked, and I mean shocked, if anybody who's affiliated with the Lakers had anything bad to say about either Max Christie or Anthony Davis, including Rob, by the way. I think when Rob eventually talks to the media, what you'll hear him say is that those two guys did everything the Lakers asked him to do. Max really developed fast. AD carried his weight the entire time he was here. And so part of this is, well, we got to say goodbye to these guys. But I think when you look at this, take a step back and look at it, there's no way they could have turned it down. Do you guys think they could have turned this down?
No. I mean, I would have been. It was stunning that it was offered to them, and Brian and I both talked about like the fact that it was offered to them, given that Luka is an MVP caliber player just entering his prime, that this was brought up to the Lakers unsolicited. It does make you wonder a little bit why and like what Dallas knows and stuff like that. But the idea of turning it down, the Lakers aren't turning it down, and frankly, no team in the league is turning it down if it's offered to them.
Well, I mean, I think Oklahoma City would turn it down, but that's another discussion. And I think Cleveland probably turns it down, but teams that are kind of off and running. But in terms of the Lakers, this reminds me of, this is something Dr. Buss would have done. As you guys know, Dr. Buss was a world-class poker player, and he was never afraid to push his chips into the middle. And that's what the Lakers did last night. They basically pushed their chips into the middle, and they said, this is reminding me a lot when Jerry West traded Vlade and hadn't signed Shaq yet, and for about a week the Lakers had no big man. And Jerry West told me later that he didn't sleep very well that week and was worried about it because he didn't have Shaq for sure. But he gambled and it worked. And I think that's what the Lakers are doing here. They're doing this trade. They're sending out Anthony Davis, and they're going to figure out the rest later, which I kind of love. And it's going to be. I was just when I was walking off the plane, I walked off with Greg St. Jean, who's one of our assistants, really bright young coach that'll probably be a head coach in the league one day. His father, you guys know his dad, Gary St. Jean, who was the coach of the Kings, coach of the Warriors. So he comes from a basketball family. And Greg was an assistant in Dallas for Jason Kidd last year. And the thing that I said, are you drawing up pick and rolls in your head? And he goes, I got to be honest, a lot of the stuff we run in Dallas is the same stuff we're running here. And think about this, guys. LeBron and Luka are two of the best 5 passers in the NBA. Jokic would be on that list. Maybe Tyrese Halliburton would be on that list. But these guys are elite passers.
Yeah.
Think about the shots, because you're going to have to double Luka. You're going to have to double LeBron. Think about the shots that Dalton Connect's going to get, that Dorian Finney-Smith's going to get. I mean, when these guys get their, practice, get Luka in here, get him healthy, I think their offense is going to be almost unstoppable. Now the question is, can you get a defense that matches it? Maybe you move Vando into the starting lineup, maybe Finney-Smith, somebody that's more defensive-oriented. But I think that's all part of figuring it out later. I'm super excited for what this might look like.
Yeah, and John, I see you said it at the top of this. It's just like when you're suspicious, maybe you wonder, like, why are they making this offer to us? But if somebody offers you this player, a 25-year-old player who is, and I love Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic is better. He's a better player than Anthony Davis is. He's also 6 years younger. And if you're offered that opportunity, you have to say yes. And it doesn't mean that it's not without risk. No trade is without risk. But like the Lakers have jumped the line in terms of what the post LeBron era looks like by years, because they've already acquired the star that you build things around and can think of things in the context of, we know who our guy is. What kind of team do we want to build?
And think about this, guys. I don't know if you've talked about this because, like I said, I just kind of landed. But they're set up in 2 years. Basically, everyone comes off the books, including LeBron. And so basically what you're going to have to offer people is, free agents, players that want to move via trade, a spot in Los Angeles playing with Luka on the Lakers, and you're going to have massive cap space. So it's the possibilities alone are super fun to think about. And, who's going to be here 3 years from now? I don't know, but I think the sky's the limit. And I've been texting with the guys in Dallas, and they're devastated. They're all super sad. They feel they said this almost feels like a death in the family. We thought this guy was going to be with us for another 10, 15 years. And, every once in a while, I remember when I was a young sportscaster in San Diego, one year the Padres traded for Gary Sheffield. And nobody could understand, Sheffield was miserable in Milwaukee. He was hitting under 200. He was a former number one recruit coming out of high school, and nobody could figure out what happened to him. And I heard you guys talking a little bit about spite as a motivator. And if Luka responds the way that Sheffield responded after he got traded, he just took off to another stratosphere and almost won the MVP his first year in San Diego. And if Luke is mad at the Mavericks and he decides to get in shape and kind of goes on an FU tour, it could be really fun to watch.
I was joking with earlier today, like if I'm Pelinka, every other day I feed Luka a doctored note from a different GM calling him fat, like saying he's out of shape and worthless. Like, you will not believe what this GM had to say about you. And just get him mad at the entire league.
Well, think about this too, guys. Rob Pelinka should have won Executive of the Year in 2020. I mean, you've heard me, both you guys have heard me go on this rant before. Not only did his best friend, his number one client, and his goddaughter perish in a helicopter crash, but he never took a leave of absence. He went into the bubble. He was actually rebounding during practice because we couldn't take ball boys with us. Put that team together. They win the title. They win the bubble title, and he got one vote for Executive of the Year because teams don't like him because he used to be an agent. So they hold that against him. I can't wait to see how they're going to keep it from him now. If this works out the way I think it's going to work out, he traded for Luka Doncic and set the Lakers up for the next 20 years. And I bet you, because people are spiteful, that he doesn't win it, but he absolutely should, and it'll be the second time he should have won it.
Well, does he have to share the award with Nico?
Well, Nico did him a favor. Those guys go way back. Nico was Kobe's Nike rep.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. When you talk about him being an agent, like this is the part of that side of his career kind of paying off.
Nico is, for Rob Pelinka, what Kevin McHale and Danny Ainge used to be, just trading back and forth, making each other's teams better. Finally, the Lakers have one of their own guys like that. I, for one, am excited about it. It's about time.
Who else do we want from the Mavericks?
I said to somebody today, there's a possibility here that the Mavericks win the battle, but the Lakers win the war. In other words, that the Mavs get a big boost from AD, get a big boost from Max. It all comes together. They make a deep playoff run. And I would caution Laker fans, if we don't make a deep playoff run, that doesn't mean you've lost the trade. It means look into the future.
Well, that actually,
and the fact that,
John, I wanted to ask you about that real quick because we're going to be up against it pretty soon. But like the idea of what comes between now and the deadline, like the immediate. I know it could get dicey for you to name players. But if you were looking for needs, like as far as what Rob might target, where would you say things should be prioritized?
Well, you need a center because right now we don't have one. And so you can get away with not – like last night we didn't need a center because the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns kind of loiters around the outside. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but last night the Lakers were brilliant. They doubled Towns every time he caught the just sent 2 guys at him, and he finished the night 3 for 12.
Yeah, it came up on a post-game show we recorded that nobody's ever going to hear because it didn't matter. It became obsolete the minute this trade broke.
Yeah, that might have been the best defensive game plan the coaches came up with all year. Max Christie locked up Jalen Brunson, and they double-teamed Towns on the catch and dared everyone else to beat him, and it worked. They led that game, guys, 98% of the night. The Knicks had the lead maybe once for 2 minutes. But now, to go back to your original question, they need a center. And so I'll throw this name out here because I know he's not going to be traded. But a guy who would be perfect for us is Steven Adams. Like, Steven Adams is a backup center in Houston. He backs up Alpi Şengün, and he gives them 15, 20 minutes a night and normally finishes with 6 or 7 offensive rebounds, in a game like that. So they'll never trade him, but think of a guy like that. And that's not a guy you need to necessarily give up a number 1 pick for, but that's somebody that you could slide right into our lineup. And this person doesn't need to score. We got plenty of offense. But if he could play elite defense, big body, throw some people around, that's the type of guy that we should be looking for between now and Thursday. And then if they don't get it done this week, you can kind of do this by committee. Jackson Hayes isn't very big, but you could use him. And most teams don't have a center. Like there's Embiid and there's Jokic and maybe a couple other guys. But you can kind of get away with a small lineup. But it'd be great if they could get a center in here before